Saturday night will mark a new era in the UFC's lightweight division. For years, the kingpin at 155 pounds was Khabib Nurmagomedov, but with his retirement made official in March, it's time to crown a new champ for the vacated belt. And the two men seeking that title and headlining UFC 262 are Charles Oliveira and Michael Chandler. It's hard to believe that Charles Oliveira is still just 31 years old, considering this will be his 28th fight in the octagon. But you certainly can't say he's undeserving of this opportunity. He's riding an 8-fight winning streak in arguably the most stacked division in the UFC and has the most submissions in the history of the organization. For his opponent, Michael Chandler, he's attempting to become only the second man in MMA history to hoist belts in both the UFC and Bellator. The three-time Bellator lightweight champ made his octagon debut in January and put all 155ers on notice with his dominant performance against Dan Hooker. Will Chandler's heavy hands and wrestling pedigree give him the edge? Or can Oliveira pull off another submission out of thin air and bring the belt back to Brazil? We're in for a fascinating matchup at UFC 262.
Here we go as we take a look at the main card at UFC 262, the main event and the co-main event, both lightweight bouts. One for the vacant UFC lightweight title, Charles Oliveira against former Bellator champ Michael Chandler, who gets a title shot in his second career UFC fight. Tony Ferguson said it was handed to him, didn't earn it. Oliveira coming off a win against Tony Ferguson in December. Ferguson faces Dariush in the co-main event. Break it down. Welcome in CBS Sports combat analyst and the co-host of Morning Combat, Luke Thomas and Brian Campbell, easily in my top 5 voices in the MMA world. Let's start with the state of the lightweight division. It's kind of in a state of flux, but the top of the 155-pound division is loaded. Luke, how would you describe the UFC lightweight division right now?
Yeah, it's pretty. I mean, it's loaded and it's kind of weird too, right? Because you have the specter of Khabib Nurmagomedov kind of hanging over everything, even though he is officially retired and now not there. And also, you have with this particular matchup a phenomenal contest. I'm sure we'll break it all down, but they have this weird specter about where's Conor McGregor and where's Dustin Poirier, and we know where they are. They're going to be together tangling in July. I just mean it's resorting itself when a figure so dominant as Khabib Nurmagomedov does what he does, just leaves the division. No one takes the title from him. And there was not much parity between him and the rest of the division. When he departs, it creates a bit of a vacuum and a space and grab for power. And you're watching this realignment in real time.
Yeah, Luke had mentioned in that video package, this might be the deepest division in UFC at the moment. I think it's the deepest division in UFC history at any one time. Certainly the loss of Nurmagomedov hurts that, Khabib. But look, here's the deal right now. It's a bit of a perfect storm that Michael Chandler and Do Bronx Oliveira end up being the two that are fighting for this vacant title. Certain guys took losses. We had Poirier out with McGregor setting up their trilogy at the moment. So the seas sort of parted. But you really could have picked any two in the top 5, 6, or 7, and they're all championship-worthy fighters. I think Dustin Poirier is the best of the bunch here at lightweight. It seems like everybody ranked high, right, has lost to Khabib on his run into unbeaten retirement. It just so happens that Poirier has chosen to chase McGregor to continue on their trilogy July 10th. Oliveira and Chandler are the next two up, both coming off of big wins. It just so happened they're going to fight each other. I'm not necessarily sure that Saturday's main event is going to tell us who's the best fighter in this division at the moment. But Saturday's main event is going to bring it from an excitement level. We do know that coming in.
Michael Chandler gets a title shot in just his second career UFC fight in his UFC debut. Knocked out Dan Hooker in the first round at UFC 257 in January. Tony Ferguson, who lost to Charles Oliveira in December, said the title shot was handed to Chandler. BC, do you agree with Ferguson?
To a certain degree, yes. It is a perfect storm of what Michael Chandler is doing right now, coming off a 10-year run in Bellator, becoming arguably the face at some points during his run there, and being a 3-time champion. What did he do since signing with the UFC? Well, let's not overlook. He acted like a company man from day one. Dana White and company called him. They brought him in as a backup for Khabib Nurmagomedov's final fight against Justin Gaethje last fall. Chandler made weight for that just in case. He did what he had to do. He then took the toughest challenge available in Dan Hooker, and as we already talked about, he delivered a first-round knockout. So is this a little bit too quick? You can certainly make that argument. But yet at the same time, what else do you want a guy like Chandler to do? He's 35 years old. He's said time and again, he's not here in the UFC for a long time. He's in here for a good time. And I think not only does the UFC brass love it when someone comes in here and brings it the way he has, he's also riding some scary momentum at the moment. We've seen it time and again when you're looking at something like the NFL playoffs. It's not always the glossy record that makes it to the end. It's the team that's hot at the moment. Chandler playing with house money. He's going in there with a puncher's chance as a slight underdog. And I think at the end of the day, what else would you want somebody to do in his spot? He's played it perfectly in a short time so far in the octagon.
Listen, Tony Ferguson is right, but it's kind of beside the point. Okay, can you argue that this is the most meritorious positioning for a fighter or that he absolutely deserves to be there? You can make a decent case for it, but it's not slam dunk. There is a little bit of promotional favorability in mind, but that's how the business kind of works. And some decisions are better than others, as I mentioned. But you have Chandler. We heard it in the package. Could become one of the few fighters to hoist a Bellator and a UFC title. I think that's actually pretty important. He looked phenomenal in his debut. And you have to understand, some of the guys debuting from Bellator have been not exactly what was promised or expected. Hector Lombard fizzled out. Will Brooks fizzled out. And Michael Chandler came roaring in. Even Eddie Alvarez, who became a champion, stumbled in his debut. This guy came in and absolutely demolished Dan Hooker when it was his most important fight at age 34 at 155 pounds. Yeah, give the guy a title shot. If it's not going to be Dustin Poirier, certainly Michael Chandler's case is about as good as anyone else's at this point.
Chandler is a slight underdog while Oliveira is the favorite. He's on an incredible run, winning 8 consecutive fights, 7 of them via stoppage. He also has 14 wins via submission, most in UFC history. Luke, I know you love a good HQ prediction. Does Oliveira's streak come to an end on Saturday night?
Yeah, I mean, listen, predictions, this is not a weather forecast. I hope folks understand this. I don't really believe in the value of them, but I will do it. I will be a team player. So here's what I'll say. If, gun to my head kind of scenario, I do think that Michael Chandler should probably get his hand raised, especially if the fight is on the shorter end of things. And there's no guarantee that it will, but the shorter it is, the better it is for Michael Chandler. The longer, it's going to be better for Oliveira. We went over this in Morning Combat. I think the issue for me is Michael Chandler has, defeated a guy like Goichi Yamauchi from Bellator. A lot of folks won't know that name. He has a very similar style in multiple dimensions, but particularly in jiu-jitsu, to Charles Oliveira. And Chandler not only won that fight, but he went into his guard multiple times. He's never, ever been submitted in his professional career. I think that should count for something. And I think also the guy brings the thunder. You saw what he did to Dan Hooker. Look at the fight at Benson Henderson that got him into the UFC. He is an absolute hammer, coming at you 100 miles an hour. And Do Bronx, while very much improved and a deserving contender, certainly I would say, not necessarily the best under intense physical pressure. So I lean towards Chandler.
Yeah, unlike Luke, I'm a lot more bolder and braver in telling you exactly where your money should go. And if you're going to get plus money on Chandler right here, here's the reason why it works. It's not just the momentum I talked about before. Does Oliveira have more chances or more ways, let's say, to win this fight? Yes. Incredible on the ground, has improved his striking. But Chandler still comes in with the biggest weapon, and that's his overhand right. And when you mix that with the pressure, he knows how to get inside, the confidence, and just that momentum streak I'm talking about. I think Oliveira, ultimately, what makes him great is going to play against him. He's a finisher. He's got UFC records for submissions and total finishes overall. But when you bring that kind of attitude, that kind of exertion to someone like Chandler, he could find a way to finish the fight. Chandler's long been a guy who can take a loss here and there because he's so aggressive, because he gets hit. But if he's doing the hitting first, he could be your new champion on Saturday night plus money. That's not a bad pick.
Yeah, that's what I like to call right there for both Luke and BC. Knowledge in your mind so you can put money in your pocket. You give us the knowledge, and then I'm supplied. There you go. All right, speaking of knowledge in your mind, money in your pocket, co-main event is also a lightweight bout. Tony Ferguson against Beneil Dariush. Ferguson has lost his last 2 fights, lost to Oliveira in December. Before that, lost to Justin Gaethje for the interim UFC lightweight title. Prior to that, Ferguson was awesome. His previous 12 fights, he won, but Dariush also been great as of late. He's on a 6-fight win streak. BC, would you say this is a crossroads fight for Tony Ferguson?
No question. At 37 years old, it's make or potentially break for his future as an elite fighter. And you certainly have to feel bad for Ferguson, right? How many times did we try to make the Khabib Nurmagomedov fight? It feels like 25, and it never happened. Ferguson has yet to compete for the full championship. Well, if he doesn't win here, he's never going to get that chance. So what you have to ask yourself, is Ferguson at 37 a product of those past two fights? Has it caught up with him? One-sided losses against elite foes? I'm not sure, but what I do know is Beneil Dariush is the right fighter to try to test that and see what Ferguson still has left. He's aggressive, he comes forward. Skill versus skill. This is Ferguson's fight to win. If you still believe in him, he's the underdog at plus money. That's a good look. You do, though, have to think about the damage accrued, the age, the quick turns around from injuries. Tony Ferguson is a wild man who almost welcomes punishment, but how much is too much? Will we find that out? Like we found out with Tyron Woodley, who went from UFC champion to 4 consecutive losses and out of the organization. I'm not saying that'll be next for Ferguson here with a loss. All I'm saying is if he doesn't win, we might not ever see him again in a fight that matters on this level.
Yeah, we went over this on Morning Combat today. Tony Ferguson is no doubt about it in a crossroads fight. However, to me, this doesn't exactly feel like Tyron Woodley's last fight. He had 3 5-round fights that he lost all of the rounds, some of them by 10-8, so it was like 15 consecutive rounds. And then he got stopped by Colby Covington. It was a disaster. We're talking about nearly 20 rounds of domination. If you look at what the issue that Tony Ferguson has, he's about 9 rounds down. The 5 again, well, maybe you could even argue he won 1 round against Justin Gaethje. Point being is he's about 8 rounds he's lost out of the last 9 or so. 2 losses, but one of those was a 3-round fight, the one against Oliveira. This one is a 3-round fight. So it's like if he loses, yes, Beneil Dariush, as good as he is, and he is very good, he's also quite hittable. He will stand and kind of trade with you a little bit, or he'll take some risks in pursuit of the fight. That's why he has some big wins. That's why he's got some big losses. That's kind of tailor-made for a guy like Tony Ferguson, who built his career on having a decent chin, taking some damage when he needed to, but being able to have great power at 2 different weight classes. Folks don't remember that. So you should be able to beat a guy like Beneil Dariush, but Dariush has never contended for a title as good as he is. So you're talking about a credentialed guy who you should be able to beat. But if you don't, what would it say about you? You'd be crossing into some new territory, and I think that would not necessarily send the best signal. As BC pointed out, 37 at 155 pounds. That's kind of old. So we're going to see if he can reclaim some space here for himself.
Certainly a must-win for Tony Ferguson in this spot. How about the value from Brian Campbell here? Dariush via TKO at plus 450. That's pretty nice.
Think about it. Think about it.
I know. I like that. Maybe put that in a parlay.
Hakeem, would you take picks from a guy who honestly is dressed like a toddler? I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't really care what he wears. Honestly, I care about the knowledge in his mind so he can put money in my pocket. Really, that's honestly what I care about, because he helped me hit some 3-fighter parlays back during when, at the height of the pandemic when we had no sports, and I'm over here, just gambling like crazy on UFC, and I got 3-fighter parlays. BC, thank you very much. Luke Thomas as well, thank you very much. One of my top 5 voices in the MMA world. Hey, this podcast is awesome. Like it's not only like one of the best MMA podcasts, but one of the best podcasts out there you can listen to. It is entertaining for all things combat, fun, and it's a good time had by all. Morning Combat, Luke Thomas, Brian Campbell. Watch the series on YouTube. You can also listen to the podcast on Apple and Spotify. Morning Combat, download and subscribe today.
Want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis. No yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.